Hey everybody, welcome to Big Boys Toys Productions. I'm James. As you can see, we're out in the garage today, and I thought I would talk about Formula One. It's a sport that I've followed for 30 plus years now and really followed it carefully since 1995. Really enjoy it. The new season, 2021 season, just started. The Bahrain Grand Prix was about a week and a half ago, and I just thought we'd maybe chat a little bit about the results of that race and some predictions for the end of the season, how I think it'll go. Let's do this. So I have my notes here on the race. Got them on my iPad here. And what I think we'll do is we'll just go through the finishing order from last to first, and I'll just give you a few thoughts along the way about how I thought the driver did, and if they did anything significant during the race or interesting during the race. We'll talk about that a little bit. And let me give you a little perspective up front about where I'm coming from. Because like I said, I've been a fan since, a really intense fan since 95. In 2000, I went to the US Grand Prix. It was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That was the return of F1 to the US after a bit of a hiatus. That was a custom-built road course in the infield of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that incorporated the short chute between what is Indy 500 turn 1 and 2 and the front straight of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that's used during the oval races. So it was really cool, and they did it there for 6 or 7 years. 1 year was a great debacle. There were some problems with the tires, and literally only 3 teams started the race. All the teams went on the formation lap, and then all but 6 cars, 3 teams, pulled into the pits and didn't race. So that was really weird. The next year, I went back. I think that was the last year of the race. So I saw the first and the last of the Indy 500 Indianapolis Motor Speedway F1 races. So that was cool. Also in 2000, I went to the Austrian Grand Prix in Austria. And that was at the A1 ring, which is now owned by Red Bull. So that's kind of the home track for the Red Bull team. So Verstappen is kind of the king of that ring now, it seems. I think he's won there the last couple of years. Actually, I take that back. That was the track where Rosberg and Hamilton had a real coming together, and it kind of sealed the championship for Rosberg, really, because it was him kind of dominating Hamilton, and I think he kind of broke Hamilton at that race. So I've seen a few Formula One races. I also saw the return of F1 after it left Indy and had a couple of years off the Circuit of the Americas track. I went to the first running of the Circuit of the Americas Formula One race. Man, that was a very expensive weekend. They were charging an arm and a leg to go to that race, but it was a great race also. And I haven't been back to an F1 race since, but we are going this October to the 2021 season US GP. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's get on to the Bahrain results. So Bahrain's not usually the first race of the season. It usually falls to Australia, but with the COVID running rampant all around the world, Australia being a very a place where they don't have much of it, wanted to keep it that way. So they didn't do the race there. They're planning, I think, on making it up at the end of the season though, at which time vaccines will have been around for almost a year, actually a little over a year, I guess, and hopefully everybody will be well. So anyway, let's start last place finisher in the Bahrain Grand Prix, and that was Mazepin. He spun on the first lap, as he did many times all weekend long. I think it's a problem with the electronic throttle. The actual gas pedal is probably causing the throttle openings or the throttle on the engine to open too much at some point. So they can program that. So I suspect they will program that and pull it back a little bit so that the guys can give a little more pedal travel for a little less throttle opening, and they'll hopefully calm their spinning, because Mick Schumacher did it too. So he was 20, and he was 20th place because he was out first lap. I should mention also on the warm-up lap, Perez had a problem with his car. It died somewhere around the lap, and he managed to get it going again, and he got back in the pit, so he had to start from pit lane. So that's going to be important here in a minute. 19th was Alonso. Unfortunately, Alonso's my favorite driver. McLaren's my favorite team. Unfortunately, Alonso's not there this year, but he is with Alpine. They say Alpine. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, I call it Alpine, and I'll keep calling it Alpine. And so he's with the Alpine team, former Renault team, and just in years past, they've started a little slow, but come on towards the end of the year. Think about last year, year before with Ricardo. When he was there, they looked pretty good in practice, then started the season kind of slow, but picked up and got better as the season progressed. If that holds true, then Alonso's going to do really well this year, because he qualified, what was it, 9th or 10th, I think? Qualified. He was running as high as 7th for a while in the race. Then he picked up a plastic wrapper or plastic bag or something in a brake duct, and that messed up his braking system, and he started dropping through the field until he finally pulled into the pits. 18th was Latifi. Like Mazepin, his dad's got billions of dollars, bought him a team. Must be nice. Wish my dad would have bought me a Formula One team back in the day. Let's see, 17 is Gasly. Gasly ruined his own race by running into the back of Ricardo. His car was never the same after that. He knocked the wing off, he went off into the gravel, made it back to the pits, they put a new wing on, never was the same. Mick Schumacher, he was 16th, and he spun on the second lap, I think, of the race. And I think he spun in the same place that his teammate had spun, but he did not hit anything in the process and just rejoined the race and, finished 16th. I guess that's not bad for a debut in Formula One. And especially in that car. I mean, let's be frank. The Haas car has not been a great car for the last couple of years. 15th, Vettel. Vettel has been a disappointment since his last World Championship win 6 years ago or something like that. I heard an interview with Peter Windsor. Actually, it wasn't an interview. He was kind of just giving an opinion. And basically, he feels like Vettel is not able to adjust his driving style to suit the car. His driving style is what it is, and he never changes it. And if the car doesn't fit that driving style, then he's nowhere. And that seems reasonable considering how he did at Ferrari, and at least this race anyway, at Aston Martin. We know that's a pretty good car. I mean, last year it did quite well with Stroll and Perez both. But Vettel was nowhere this race. And on top of that, he ran into the back of Ocon and then blamed Ocon, at least initially. They say he went back and apologized later the next day or later that day after he saw some of the videotape or something. But, I mean, initially he's like, why did Ocon move on me and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, you did all the moving. So I'm not a Vettel fan, and I've never been a Vettel fan. So we'll just leave it at that. He's 15th, and that's where he belongs. 14th was Russell. Russell's another one of those drivers who does things with a car that nobody else can do. He can take a car and make it faster than anyone else in the car. He proved that when he took Hamilton's seat when Hamilton had COVID at the end of the season last year, and he whipped Valtteri Bottas's butt in Hamilton's car. So Russell is going to go on to do great things, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit if he ends up being a world champion someday. We'll watch that. He was 14th. 13th was Ocon, so even though Vettel hit him, it didn't ruin his race. So good for Ocon at 13th. I haven't been impressed with Ocon the last few years, I have to say. I think last year he was back after a year off or whatever, and he's just been kind of there. Now we get to an interesting 11th and 12th here. Kimi Räikkönen and Antonio Giovinazzi. That Alfa Romeo must be a much better car this year because they were 11th and 12th. And I love seeing Kimi up there in 11th. I love hearing Kimi on the radio telling people exactly what he thinks. It's hilarious. And I love to see an old guy who can still drive a Formula One car like a bat out of hell. So good for Räikkönen. Keep up the good work. Might be a good year for those guys. We'll have to watch it and see. 10th was Stroll. I mean, Stroll's in that car. That Aston Martin should be a really good car. Evolution of last year's car, which was basically an evolution of the Mercedes that's won for the last 7 years or whatever. So Stroll should be doing better. And interestingly enough, I thought Stroll, for years, I thought he sucked. Then we started getting a couple of rain races, and I watched him in the rain. That guy can actually drive a damn car in the rain. It's amazing. Boy, as soon as the weather dries out, everybody overtakes him, though. But in the wet, man, that guy's fast. So anyway, he was 10th. We'll see. Maybe the car's not as good as we think it should be based on last year's results. 9th was Tsunoda. Geez, man, first F1 race, and he's Gasly's teammate at AlphaTauri, and he whipped Gasly like a redheaded stepchild. I mean, come on. 9th place in your first race. That's awesome. Points, he's going to be one to watch. He might be a fun car to watch run through the field a little bit. 8th was Sainz in the Ferrari. Yeah, well, you know, whatever. The Ferrari hadn't been great the last couple of years, so I guess you can't complain too much with 8th. 7th was Ricciardo, a little underperforming in that McLaren. I kind of expected more from him. He did mention in the interviews that he was having a problem that he couldn't get a hold of, and he wasn't quite sure what it was. But I think when he gets that car dialed in, Norris is going to have his hands full with Ricciardo. It'll be great to watch, and McLaren is my favorite team, so I hope that they do really well this year. Let's see where we're at now. We're at 6th, Leclerc, the other Ferrari. Leclerc, like Russell and Verstappen and Hamilton, and that he can do more with a car than just about anybody else on the track. So he did great at 6th. Again, Ferrari hadn't been great the last few years, so we'll see how it goes. 5th, Perez. Are you kidding me? The guy starts from pit lane and ends 5th. Man, Red Bull could not have done better by picking him up this year and dropping Albon. Albon was an okay driver, but he never really showed that last little bit. And maybe it's just because his teammate was Verstappen, and Verstappen makes everybody look bad. But I tell you what, first race with the new team, and Perez held his own and looked great all weekend. So it will be interesting to see if we get Perez and Vettel fighting each other at some point during the season. It wouldn't surprise me. Norris, 4th. Man, that guy was flying in the McLaren. Just flying. And we've said Norris is a great guy for years now. Maybe not quite at Russell's level, but pretty close. And he's in a much better car. That McLaren is way, way better than the Williams. So look forward to seeing how Norris drives this year. Looks like a kid. Love him. 3rd, Bottas. Bottas is, I don't know. I mean, when he was at Williams, he was doing things with that Williams car that nobody else could do. But now he's over here at McLaren, Mercedes, whatever, driving along with Hamilton. And when Hamilton loses a race for some reason, he's not there to pick up the pieces. I'm surprised that he didn't get let go from Mercedes this year. And I think if he's not right up there giving Verstappen and Hamilton a run for their money, I don't think he's going to get a contract for next year with Mercedes. I wouldn't surprise me a bit if he and Russell switch seats and Bottas goes back to Williams and Russell comes up to Mercedes. I don't think Hamilton will want that, because I think Russell will give Hamilton a run for his money. 2nd was Verstappen. Verstappen had a great weekend. He led all the practice sessions. He qualified on the pole, led the first third of the race, and then I guess after that, Hamilton took over. That was all due to stops. And we really thought Verstappen would catch Hamilton in the end and pass him and win the race running away. And he did catch him, and he did pass him, but he passed him and went all four wheels over the white line, which defined the track limits. So he was off the track when he passed Hamilton, and that's illegal. And so 2 corners later, he had to slow down, give the position back to Hamilton, but that had burned his tires up, and he just didn't have anything in the last 3 laps for Hamilton, who ended up going on and winning the race. So Hamilton wins the race after taking the lead at lap 18, and it was super close and super exciting. And Verstappen got second, which was a big disappointment for him, but considering where they were a year ago, I don't think he was too upset by it, and he knows that he's got a great car and he's going to be able to challenge all year long. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, and I'll do this little quick update on F1 after each race, a week or so after each race. That way everybody's got a chance to see it and it won't be a spoiler. You guys take care. We'll see you again soon.